I would like to turn our attention to Mr. Guy Benson. He is a political editor, national radio host, and news contributor whose work bridges journalism and public engagement. Please join me in welcoming Guy Benson.
Well, I must confess that I feel unworthy of being the final speaker in this incredible lineup, but thank you so very much for inviting me to this gathering. It's an honor to be here with all of you today. Thank you for inviting me. For those of you who are not familiar with me or my work, my name is Guy Benson. I'm the political editor and a political commentator and a radio host, as you just heard. I appear on national news programs. I reside here in the DC area. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself and my own beliefs alone. Not, as it happens, as a subject matter expert per se. We've heard from many of those today. Many of those esteemed the guests that we've heard from over the course of this morning and afternoon know far more about the evils of the regime in Tehran than I do, and they are undoubtedly better equipped than I am to discuss the prospects of a free Iran, a goal that we all share. What I can tell you, by way of background, is that I am an American citizen, but I was born not far from Iran. I arrived in the Middle East to American parents just over half a decade after a group of fanatics tragically seized control of your beloved homeland. My father has relayed stories throughout my life about the terrible days, for example, of the Iran-Iraq War and the very real threats Americans faced when we were living in that region. Many of those threats, of course, were traceable to the regime in Iran. My parents also told me about a secret one-woman rebellion staged by my own mother on the eve of our final departure from that country where we were living. At the time, and until quite recently, women were not allowed to drive. My mother is a very sweet, mild-mannered woman. I don't think she would necessarily embrace the label of a feminist, but she thought it was absurd the way that women were treated there, in addition to not being allowed to get behind the wheel. So on her last night in that country, she put on a Yankees hat and sunglasses, and she drove around the housing compound for a few minutes. Very uncharacteristic for her to do something like that, and I'm proud of her. It was her own miniature protest, this act of defiance. And if she had been caught, she wasn't, the consequences would have been relatively modest. It was a small, symbolic risk that she took. As I've learned subsequently, of course, the perils to her life or freedom paled in comparison to the abuse and the subjugation that courageous Iranian women have suffered through the years as they have thumbed their noses at the oppressive rulers, the monsters who run their country. I share that anecdote simply to convey that from my very first days on this planet, events in the Middle East have shaped who I am and what I believe. I also mention it because I find it fitting and inspiring that so many of the important leaders of your movement are women, indeed one particularly remarkable woman. In an era in our politics of cheap posturing and a lot of empty rhetoric, Iranian women demanding freedom and equality is, in a word, heroic, true heroism. I'm here today because I unequivocally share all of your righteous vision for a free, secular, democratic, non-nuclear Iran, as determined and secured by and for the people of Iran and no one else. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know when I say that for years these goals have felt righteous and worthy, but still distant. But to echo a theme and a refrain that we've heard articulated by others here today, I believe that hope, real, justified, urgent hope, is warranted in this moment. Since October 7th, 2 years ago, the world has realized that the head of the snake of terrorism lies in Iran and has also seen the utter weakness of the Iranian regime, as well as the desire of the Iranian people to reject that regime and seek freedom. The regime has been exposed as a paper tiger, or rather, the regime has exposed itself as a paper tiger. They are the architects of their own humiliation. While the exposure of this weakness on a global stage has been vital as a geopolitical breakthrough, paving the way, I hope, for more regime-isolating peace accords in that neighborhood, I also pray that that embarrassment to the regime echoes and is echoing powerfully among the people who have been oppressed by that regime for so long. A regime that abuses them, imprisons them, tortures them, murders them, and for what? To steal and spend untold resources on a nuclear program that has been dealt a massive, crippling blow, on a military that crumbled under pressure this summer, on terror proxies that are falling and collapsing like dominoes. Their propaganda is also imploding. Their bravado has been punctured. So for all the evil that you have witnessed and your loved ones have witnessed through the years, through the decades, and that the world has seen over the last 2 years in particular, these have been catastrophic strategic blunders by the regime. I think history may well look back on October 7th and its aftermath as the beginning of the end for these people, both as a cancerous force within the Middle East and also, crucially, within the eyes of its people. And it is those people, the good people of Iran, who deserve justice, freedom, and a country whose future is controlled and charted by them, not swapping one form of tyranny for another, mind you. Others have spoken to that, including the Speaker. There's no appetite for that. There should be no interest in the West for that, but rather genuine self-determination, something that we take for granted in this country. We have no idea sometimes how fortunate we are, and we should be inspired by the sacrifice of people in your country who are striving for what we have. This is what free people everywhere must wish for the oppressed people all across the globe. Anyone who professes to stand for human rights or for women's rights or fighting against tyranny, I believe among those people it is a moral requirement to speak out against the regime in Iran and on behalf of the people of Iran. On behalf of those who are oppressed and intimidated and assaulted and executed for supposed crimes as decreed by an evil, illegitimate cabal that rules through fear and without the consent of the governed. They hail sometimes their fallen comrades and allies as martyrs, when in fact the true martyrs are their victims. May their tormentors' days, those victims' tormentors' days, be numbered. And as I alluded to earlier, I believe they are. I'm not alone. The American people are behind you. Please know that. The American people are behind you. A bipartisan majority. For those of you who pay attention to American politics, you know bipartisan majorities aren't always guaranteed these days. But a bipartisan majority of the U.S. House of Representatives is behind you, as expressed in House Resolution 166. Many of you are familiar with that. It is a morally clear and powerful document. It has the backing of a majority of our House of Representatives across party lines. How fantastic. And on the subject of solidarity and optimism, as I was preparing for this event, I sought the counsel of a man that I respect a great deal. He's an Iranian-American scholar. He's joined my national radio program numerous times through the years, educating me, educating my audience about the evils of Iran's regime and, crucially, the resilience of the Iranian people. So when I spoke to him a few days ago, he encouraged me to offer words of hope and encouragement here, especially because he believes there is great cause for both right now. In fact, I saw him on the West Coast a few weeks ago, and I told him off the air, I said, I don't remember ever seeing or hearing you this upbeat about the prospect of a free Iran. And he looked at me with a twinkle in his eye, and he simply nodded. This is a man who has studied these issues as closely as anyone in the world, and I respect him. So his optimism is therefore my optimism. And in accordance with his advice, I'll leave you with this thought. Over the last few years, I've personally engaged in a number of battles for the soul of institutions and movements that I care about. I won't get bogged down in those details. They're not terribly relevant here today. But suffice it to say that some of these fights have felt decidedly uphill at times. People in my orbit, my friends and others, sometimes have wondered aloud why I'm bothering to even have these fights. Oh, it's lost. The place is lost. Give up. Why shout into the void? Move on. And I say, I've spoken out, I've dug in because I love these places. I refuse to simply give up on them, even when things have felt hopeless or frustrating. So the struggles that I just referenced differ greatly from your cause, not drawing any direct comparisons, that's not my point. But my point is a parallel that I do see, which is the imperative to never give up and never lose hope when it comes to an institution or a country that you treasure. Nothing in life and nothing in history is permanent. I'm sure that through the decades since 1979, some critics have urged dissidents, people like you, members of the Iranian diaspora, to just maybe move on. Resistance is futile. That has certainly been the message from the regime. The despots have always counted on despair and indefinite submission achieved through coercion. And to your immense, eternal credit, you've never acquiesced. You've never given that submission to them. The submission that they demanded, you have refused. One must never merely shrug or surrender to complacency, especially as it relates to something about which one cares deeply. You all have never stepped aside. You have never walked away. You have never disengaged. And now, after so many years of setbacks and anguish and death, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that the tide has turned. And justice is not just remotely plausible, but increasingly realistic. So my parting prayer is this, that in our lifetimes, we will gather together again for precisely this sort of conference. And we won't do it here in Washington, D.C. We won't do it in New York. We won't do it in Paris. We won't do it in Brussels. We will do it in a free, thriving Tehran. And God willing, not if, but when we have that gathering in Tehran, we will have a conversation not about what might be, but what has already been achieved. Thank you all so much. God bless you. God bless the people of Iran, and God bless my country, the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Benson, for your support and solidarity with the people of Iran for a free and democratic republic in Iran. Thank you very much.